prior to the invasion of Ukraine, Ukraine was seen as a struggling or developing democracy at best. It had a score of 4 out of 10 on multiple Human Rights Watch indexes. So it was not a functioning democracy. It wasn't. It was a developing or transformative democracy because it was still very much corrupt. It was still embedded with Russia. It was still practicing active political oppression, et cetera, et cetera. It was not what we in the West, what you in the UK, what we in the United States, what any of our G7 countries, it's not what any of us would determine to be a democracy. Mm-hmm. It was just a country that was still on the cusp of whether or not it would accept and
it was
adopt.
moving in that direction, I would say, right? And if you look at the region, it's kind of the standout in that region in terms of moving towards democracy. What other countries that are former Soviet Union countries, other than Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, the recent joint, like, what other countries in that region were moving in that direction?
So it's not about being comparative to me. It's about the narrative that was presented to the entire, not just Americans, all English-speaking countries were given a narrative. Mm-hmm. And that narrative was, this place is a democracy and we have to protect that democracy. Mm-hmm. That was false. It's like someone who's moving towards graduating college is not a college graduate.
That's fair, totally fair. What I think I'm saying is, part of the reason that Ukraine finds itself in conflict with Russia, and I've seen this, I have lots of family in Ukraine, whatever, is since 1991, Ukraine repeatedly has made the conscious choice to move in a more westward direction.
Right.
And that's why partly why it's being attacked. So you're probably right to say it's not, you're not probably right, you're 100% right. It's not a democracy like the UK or the United States. The oligarchs have ridiculous amounts of power in Ukraine, etc. But the direction of travel was westward, which is why Russia is coming in to prevent that.
Absolutely.
So I would argue we are, in supporting Ukraine, we are defending the democratic movement of that country.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't disagree with that. But is defending a democratic movement enough to make the kind of support that we saw from NATO and from the United States? Well, the United States is part of NATO. I would say no. The real reason that NATO and the United States are involved is not because anybody cares about democracy in Ukraine. It's because they all care about isolation and degradation of Russia. That, by definition, is a proxy war, just like we were talking about.
Or containment, we might say.
Containment, yeah.
Not necessarily degradation. It's not about wanting them to be destroyed, but it's about making sure they don't continue expanding.